This is CBN News Watch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Wendy Griffith. Hundreds of Americans arriving home from China today, leaving the coronavirus hot zone as the number of people infected continues to rise to more than 24,000 now. Nearly 500 have died. CBN's health reporter Lori Johnson is with us now with the very latest. Lori.
Wendy, the United States State Department chartered 2 jets from Wuhan, China. A total of 350 American citizens touched down this morning at Travis Air Force Base near San Francisco. The passengers on one of those planes will remain quarantined there for 2 weeks. The other plane refueled and went on to Miramar Air Base in San Diego, where they will be quarantined for 2 weeks as well.
This is the second U.S. government-sponsored evacuation of Americans from the epicenter of the outbreak. The virus has killed nearly 500 and infected more than 24,000. The vast majority of cases remain confined to China thanks to extreme measures containing the spread. Medical experts preached caution and that wearing a mask might not be enough.
For people who have no symptoms, the mask will not necessarily protect them 100%.
This hospital in China, built in little more than a week, can care for 1,000 patients, and Chinese officials are putting drones in the air to spray disinfectant. Casinos in the Chinese territory of Macau closed for at least 2 weeks. Off the coast of Japan, a cruise ship quarantined after a passenger tested positive. Meanwhile, in Wuhan, ground zero for the outbreak, courageous Christians take the opportunity to spread the good news of Jesus, handing out masks along with Christian literature.
They share the love of Christ and point to Jesus to bring hope to them and their families and the whole China. And this is really a breakthrough.
They really are brave. In communist China, Christians are often persecuted, forcing them to go underground. The surgical masks, Wendy, help disguise their identity when they're out there giving out the Christian tracts.
Amazing. Well, we know the coronavirus can be transmitted from person to person, right? But now we're hearing that pregnant women can actually transmit it to their babies.
Right. It's so sad. The youngest victim, the youngest person to have tested positive for the coronavirus was born just this past Sunday in Wuhan. And as it turns out, his mother had tested positive for the coronavirus. And so this being reported on Chinese state television just shows that it can be now passed from pregnant women to their unborn children.
Do we know how the baby did or is doing?
He's under observation right now and being treated, but he's still alive.
Great. Okay, well, where are we now with a vaccine?
There is a race going on right now. Pharmaceutical companies are literally working 24/7 to develop a vaccine because, of course, they're humanitarian, but this is going to mean big bucks as well.
Right.
And so there's one in the United States and also one in Great Britain. And they are both saying that they may have a vaccine ready within 3 months, which is astounding. At that point, they will have to test it on animals and then people. But usually it takes years for a vaccine to be developed.
3 months would be great. All right.
So that would be like when it's ready for testing, but it might be available to the general public in as short as a year, which, again, amazing.
Okay. Well, what level of risk do we face here in America?
The CDC says the risk to Americans in America is low. Right now, we have 11 confirmed cases. 9 of those cases are people who caught it in Wuhan, and the other 2 are their spouses. The one case in Seattle, the very first case ever confirmed in the United States, that patient has been sent home. He's been released from the hospital.
Oh, that's good news. All right, Lori, thanks so much for that update. We appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Well, last night, President Donald Trump delivered his 3rd State of the Union speech to Congress. On the eve of his impeachment vote in the Senate, the commander-in-chief used the speech to relaunch his 2020 campaign, highlighting his accomplishments in office. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy brings us the story from Capitol Hill.
President Trump delivered an uplifting speech touting the economy, jobs numbers, and trade deals. He talked about his fight for religious liberty and called on Congress to end late-term abortions.
Madam Speaker, the President of the United States.
President Trump walked into the same chamber where House Democrats voted to impeach him. He did not shake House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's hand.
Members of Congress, the President of the United States.
Pelosi left off that it was her high honor and distinct privilege when introducing the commander-in-chief. But despite delivering the State of the Union address under the cloud of impeachment, Trump did not mention it. The president's theme was the Great American Comeback, touting his success since taking office.
The state of our union is stronger than ever before.
Trump talked about defending religious liberty.
We don't tear down crosses. We don't ban symbols of faith. We don't muzzle preachers and pastors. In America, we celebrate faith.
He then called on Congress to fight for the unborn.
I'm also calling upon members of Congress here tonight to pass legislation finally banning the late-term abortion of babies.
The fundamental protection of life in the United States to end at long last late-term abortion. Certainly we can all agree on that.
It was shocking to me that Democrats would not even stand to defend late-term abortions. It's very difficult for me to wrap my mind around that.
Some of your Democratic colleagues decided not to show up. Why was it so important for you to attend tonight's speech?
I disagree with the president on many things, but he's still the president of the United States, and I believe it's my constitutional obligation to listen to the president and to try to make the best I can to find whatever common ground there may be.
Lawmakers found common ground with a standing ovation for Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido, a surprise guest of the president.
Please take this message back that all Americans are united with the Venezuelan people in their righteous struggle for freedom.
The chamber was on their feet again to welcome back a soldier in a real-time surprise homecoming, then applauded Rush Limbaugh, who was honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Beloved by millions of Americans who just received a stage 4 advanced cancer diagnosis. This is not good news, but what is good news is that he is the greatest fighter and winner that you will ever meet.
The address wrapped up with the House Speaker making it clear what she thought of the president's speech.
Unbelievable. I mean, here, while the president is saying, God bless America, Nancy Pelosi is right behind him tearing the speech up. And that, to me, exemplifies the Democratic Party that we're dealing with here in Washington, D.C.
The president now prepares for the outcome of the Senate vote on 2 articles of impeachment. It appears the vote will fall down party lines, which means Trump will be acquitted. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
Thanks, Ben. And joining us now is Dan Gaynor of the Media Research Center. Dan, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
I know you were watching last night. Well, what do you believe will be remembered most from last night's address and why?
Well, unfortunately, probably what should be remembered is how inclusive and how upbeat the speech was. Even CBS News was out there saying this was a more stately presentation for Trump. Well, I imagine Nancy Pelosi ripping up the speech at the end out of bitterness and failure will probably be remembered.
I think you're right. Well, did the president miss an opportunity perhaps by not accepting Speaker Pelosi's handshake? And do you believe her speech-ripping moment was from anger, or do you think that was pre-planned?
I think a lot of things in Washington are pre-planned. I have no doubt that was. And look, the left and the media in this country basically declared the president a traitor for 3 years. Then they went on a bogus impeachment that is in the process of failing as we speak. I don't really expect, I expect the president to lead, but I don't expect him to be, abnormal and shake hands with somebody who's tried to do that to him. I think that would have been bizarre.
Well, and he didn't shake hands with the vice president, and he was turning, so he may not even have seen it. We haven't heard from the president yet, so we'll have to wait and find out how the rest of that story goes. But your organization points out a number of negative media reactions to the speech, but did you see any bright spots?
Well, like I said, I think CBS was the bright spot. I think that was really when a major network is basically saying this was not the kind of speech that they've grown to expect Trump to give. It wasn't all fire and brimstone. It was a lot of, we've done this together and honoring our heroes. And it was particularly a very strong attempt to be, to reach out to minority groups. Brigadier General, the Tuskegee Airmen who fought in 3 different wars, honoring him and his great-grandson who wants to go into the Space Force. I thought that was a wonderful moment. And to see that some people weren't even standing and applauding it was just shocking to me.
And also not having any sympathy, it seemed, for Rush Limbaugh and his cancer diagnosis. Yeah,
that's just a level of despicable that look, I know we're in an era where everybody fights, but no one's cheering for cancer. No one wants someone else to die or get really sick. And it seems like you would want someone to be honored, but they didn't. They consider Rush the enemy in many cases, and so that's how they treated it. And then, of course, many of the Democratic Congress people walked out in the middle of the speech.
All right, Dan Gainor, we always appreciate your insights, especially on a big night like we had last night. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, for more political news and analysis, be sure to catch Faith Nation this evening. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. In other news is warmer weather on the way. The groundhog Punxsutawney Phil didn't see his shadow on Sunday and is predicting an early spring. But what are weather patterns actually showing? AccuWeather meteorologist Justin Povich brings us a look.
The spring season not too far away. Going to see a delayed start to that warming here throughout the Northeast as well as the Great Lakes. So a bit of a chilly start to the spring season, and it will be active as we slide our way points south into the Southeast, especially along and south of the Mason-Dixon line, but still some bouts of chill and some cold as we go throughout the first half of the spring season. Meanwhile, a pretty active situation going on over the Southeast, where we will see activity in terms of severe weather potential from the Tennessee Valley to the Gulf Coast. Very active conditions here as we work our way throughout the spring season, and continued warm throughout the Sunshine State. Quite a few storm systems making their way throughout the northern tier of states will cause conditions to really start to pick up as the spring season wears on, especially from western Kansas and Nebraska on northbound. Meanwhile, dry and hot conditions will be felt and seen again throughout western portions of Texas. Severe weather throughout the Arklatex as well, and points off to the east throughout the mid-Mississippi River Valley. Stormy start of the spring season over the northwest, and then drying out, but continued active as we talk about the interior northwest and Southern California, looking not only warm but dry as we talk about the spring season. The stormiest of the conditions over Northern California early on in the season.
All right, well, dozens of people have been killed after avalanches in Turkey rocked the mountainside. Rescue teams were working to recover 2 missing people after an avalanche hit, when a second avalanche then fell, burying the workers in the snow, trapping them. At least 33 people were killed and 53 injured. Major recovery operations are underway as authorities warn of a possible 3rd avalanche. 30 others have been brought to safety so far. Coming up, why one organization says Christian parents should pay closer attention to what their kids watch on TV and how it directly impacts their future.
To have sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
The Oscars are this weekend, and movies are on the minds of many. So what should Christians consider before buying a movie ticket or watching one? The founder of the biblically responsible investing company, Timothy Plan, recently attended the 2020 Movie Guide Awards. And Art Ally joins us now with advice for Christians. Welcome, Art.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks for having me. And I did attend that incredible event. I think it's better than the Academy Awards.
Well, it certainly looked like it. Well, the Movie Guide Awards, as you know, celebrates films and TV shows that have a redeeming quality to them. They're not all overtly Christian, of course. But before we get into advice for Christians, give us a quick rundown of what happened there when you attended.
Well, Ted Baehr, who's headed that up, has been a friend for 25 years. When Ted was on the radio in Atlanta and moved 20-some years ago to Hollywood, I called him and said, "Man, are you nuts? You're moving into the darkest city in America," because back then there was nothing redeeming about any movie that would come out. And yet he was the light in the darkness. And the thing that pleased me more than anything, Wendy, was his announcement that from zero when he moved out there, last year, 62% of all the movies that came out had some kind of a family-friendly, spiritual, or at least redeeming quality to them. What a change it's been. And nothing impacts, as you well know, our culture as much as entertainment.
Well, isn't that interesting? But what should Christians consider before they watch a movie or a television show?
Well, unfortunately, you know, Christians have a lot of lip service, and they just, their beliefs are not impacting the way they live. So they watch what they want to watch. But if they really are serious in serving the Lord and following what he wants us to do, they will be careful on what they watch and what they allow their children, what they allow to come into their home. And it's not just television, it's movies in the movie theaters as well. And I'll tell you what, Movie Guide is one of the best resources in America for parents to subscribe to. And it really does guide them into what to stay away from and what is probably pretty good.
Art, Timothy Plan pioneered biblically responsible screens. What are they and what is the goal?
Well, we did, and we are not in the entertainment business. I have a lot of friends there. We are in the investing business. We are a mutual fund family, and we have 12 funds and 4 exchange-traded funds as well. And we drew a line in the sand 25 years ago, Wendy, when I was becoming increasingly aware of what some of these corporations are funding beneath the radar, whether it be abortion or pornography or non-traditional married lifestyles or anti-family entertainment and a number of other screens. My clients really found that reprehensible, which caused me to really search the entire industry to find something that would do some biblical screening, and there was nothing out there. I did not want to do this.
Yeah.
However, it needed to be done. My wife concurred. We launched it, and we went through, 8 years of pain and suffering because nobody was thinking in those terms about investing. You know, one example, I use, well, 2 really, if I've got a second. One, if you're pro-life, and if you're a Christian, you are pro-life, how much money do you want to invest in abortion? And why would you want to take God's money that he's entrusted to you and invest in companies that are funding the very things that are destroying our culture? The other thing is, a number of ministries and parachurch ministries are starting to watch what some of these corporations do. And in the crosshairs, for example, and I don't...
Art, I'm so sorry. We're out of time, and the producer says we've got to wrap. But thank you so much. This is amazing information, and you're exactly right. We should be putting our money where our mouth is. Art Ally, the founder of Timothy Plan, thank you so much for your insights and time.
Okay. Thanks, Wendy.
God bless. Up next, how one pro-life activist is encouraging children to join in the fight for life.
Yeah, I got the
on the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
The author of a new book wants children to learn to speak up for life. Bethany Bomberger wrote Pro-Life for Kids to get families talking about the issue. As Charlene Aaron found out, the author hopes to start a movement.
The book Pro-Life Kids is aimed at children from kindergarten to 5th grade and teaches that every human being has value, including the ones not yet born. Bethany Bomberger says she wrote the book to encourage parents to get their kids involved in this key issue.
I believe that we can empower children to stand up for what is right and good from a very young age. And children are naturally pro-life. And I believe that as a Christian mama and educator, that it is my job to foster that natural inclination.
Endorsed by leading activists such as Alveda King and former Planned Parenthood director Abby Johnson, Pro-Life Kids illustrates the history of today's abortion culture.
We can look at history and see what happened during slavery, to see what has happened through the Holocaust. And this is actually what is happening in our current society today. This is the effect of abortion. One group of human beings is deciding another group of human beings is not worthy of their life because of their size, their level of development, or their degree of dependency.
She says kids are embracing the lesson.
We're getting videos of children who are reading this, and it is a catalyst for conversation. It is allowing there to be discussion about something that we have really been silent on with our children. But if we don't teach them, a broken world will reach them.
10 years ago, Bethany and her husband Ryan began the Radiance Foundation, a nonprofit that educates people on social issues such as abortion, adoption, and poverty.
The Lord has allowed us to just get many responses from, I want to say, thousands of people across the globe who have been, there's been a spark. I need to rethink about what I've thought things before. Or they said, I've been so silent. I'm pro-life. I believe that a baby in a womb has a right. But your ministry has allowed me to rethink how quiet I am.
They also highlight the importance of something called factivism.
My husband, Ryan Bomberger, coined the phrase, less activism, more factivism. Because what we're seeing in society today is a lot of activism, which is an emotionally supported, emotionally driven want to change things. But factivism says we are humans and there is an emotional side to us, but we have to marry our emotions with the facts.
Meanwhile, Bethany hopes her book will help raise the next generation of pro-life warriors.
It's really a jump-off spot to either take it deeper or to just keep it a simple message, but it will lay a foundation with our children that every life, regardless of size, is important.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN Health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Hillsborough Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
And finally, Tim Tebow recently hosted more than 100,000 people at a special event. Tebow says he wants to make sure everyone is valued for their God-given worth. He told Fox News, quote, "I believe a catalyst for doing that is our night to shine, our worldwide prom for people with special needs, because we have decided to go out of our way to make the biggest, the most special night of the year for these people with special needs because they're worth it and they're special." Global Night to Shine events are set for Friday. That's going to do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. We hope you'll join us next time. And from all of us here, have a great day and God bless you.